It sure is nice driving my 2020 Chevy Silverado.
Hi, Squidward.
Hi, hello everybody, welcome back to my evil lair. If you've been online the past few weeks, especially in the art space and the edit space, you might have noticed a spike for the love of the second Goofy movie, just completely out of the blue. More specifically, love for Max Goof and Bradley Uppercrust. And if you do not know already, I only spoke about this once in a community post, but I consider myself a Goofy movie connoisseur. So you can probably tell, I am very excited about this because this movie has been my biggest comfort and hyperfixation since I was a small wee lad. I am so obsessed with this movie, in fact, that I have an entire AU that I have been building up and working on since all the way back since I was in middle school. And for reference, I just got out of my freshman year of college. So it's been a long while. I fucking love this movie and the characters, and I love my AU even more. And I have been looking for an excuse to talk about them in a long-form video for ages. Now, I won't get into all the lore and character arcs in this video because 1, I don't want this video to be 5 hours long, and 2, because I'm planning on making a lot more videos and content with these characters, and I feel like it's best for you guys to learn about the story organically than me just spewing it at you in a video. So this video will be more so summaries of all of the main characters and the main plot. And you don't have to worry, this AU doesn't really follow the original movie all too well, so you don't need to have seen it or know the plot to really understand what's happening here. Anyway, we have a lot to get into, so I'll stop yapping and get into the story. So first things first, what is this AU? This AU is called The Goof Troop, because when I named it, I didn't realize that there was already a Disney show called The Goof Troop. And I don't want to change the name. But anyways, the Goof Troop follows Max as he struggles to go through college and starting a new life completely on his own after his friends decide to go their separate ways to start their adult life. And he's struggling to figure out who he is, what he wants to be, and frankly what his purpose in this big old world of billions of people is. And to deal with this existential fear of adulthood, he impulsively makes a bet with Bradley Uppercrust III for the X Olympics. For reference, the X Olympics is literally just an expanded version of the X Games, where instead of just doing BMX sports, they do a bunch of other shit with other sports and creatives. It's a big thing. It's also a big program that puts you through years of college, so you're basically set for life once you're through if you make it through. It's pretty strict competition. Now he thinks everything is going to be smooth sailing, but then he realizes it's going to be really hard because the group he's paired up with to be his team are coincidentally a group of ex-friends who had a very bad falling out. And they seemingly all have their own little history with Bradley Uppercrust himself. And this leads to a bunch of shenanigans and hijinks where he has to deal with a group mending broken bonds and growing to become better people. If you cannot tell, I made this specific draft of the AU when I was in my senior year of high school and fearing going into adulthood and that my life was gonna fall apart. This was my copium, damn it. I'll also tell you guys that this AU is heavily inspired by things like BoJack Horseman and Scott Pilgrim, two things that I'm also very obsessed with. But I did try to keep the original spirit of the series, and this includes trying to make the characters that we do see in the AU that are from the movie as close to their original designs as possible, while also putting my own spin on them. And over the years, I did this with varying success. But I feel like this iteration is the best one. It's probably going to be the one I stick with for the rest of this AU. And for the rest of my time with it, which will probably be forever. I'd also like to point out that Bobby and PJ have not been completely removed from this story. We still get scenes and moments and even like full episodes about them and how they're doing. They're just not like main characters anymore. But they still have a big like presence in the story. Don't worry. It obviously really wouldn't be that much of the Goofy movie if I just completely removed them, right? Now that we have that out of the way, let's get into the characters. Max is the exact same as he was in the original movie. I have made no changes. All I really did was take traits he already had and amplified them to drag out his story arc. With some personal headcanons of my own, of course. He's just a silly, goofy guy that tries way too hard to be cool and establish himself. He's very caring, very supportive, but also very smug, sarcastic, easily excited. He's a big jokester, and he's pretty awkward. He still has the same insecurity issues that he does in the first two movies, which can lead him to make impulsive decisions. You know, like making a bet before he even knew the full scope of what he was getting into, or even having a team for that matter. He's a little dumb and a little too confident for his own good. He's chill for the most part and can be mature and rational when the situation really calls for it, which is why he's the team leader. But he also does often get lost in his head and disregard the needs of others, even though he will try to fix it later. He often avoids asking for help and tries to be a jack of all trades to compensate for his insecurity and lashes out when he feels underestimated, babied, or threatened. It's a trait both he and Bradley share, but Max is just on a much lesser degree. And along with skating, he's also a bit of an interest in spray painting and graffiti. He likes customizing his board when he's, bored. He's my silly little goofy goober, and I love him. He gotten me through some hard times. Moving on to Donatello's Goof Sona, we have Bradley Uppercrust III. He, just like Max, is almost the exact same from his original iteration. He's cocky, he's manipulative, he's a preppy boy, and he has anger issues. He's not completely irredeemable though, he does get his little redemption arc. If I had to describe his character, I think it would be like a weird mix of Cleo Denial and Valentine from Monster High if you put them together. He's very posh and takes a lot of pride in his appearance. He hates getting dirty to the point where if you actually do get him dirty, that would be worse than any crime you could ever commit. Even post-redemption arc, he's still very competitive, and he has an intense drive to succeed that pushes on to toxic perfectionism. He often gets burned out and frustrated when things don't go his way, and particularly shits on himself when he doesn't meet his impossibly high standards for himself. So he tends to lash out and break down and go to extremes when he even senses something is going wrong. But he isn't all anger and cockiness and manipulation and putting bombs on people. Behind it all, he's kind of a little fun-loving dork that loves math and D&D, and he can be pretty soft when he wants to be. He's particularly soft with the next character on his list, despite their strained relationship, and that's his twin sister Lorelei Uppercrust II, aka Lottie. But before I get into that though, I'm gonna answer a quick question I know is on your little noggins. Is Maxley canon to this AU? Yes, but also no. You see, romance doesn't really play a big role in the Goof Troop. Not because I didn't want there to be, but because I genuinely did not know which ships I wanted to make canon because I like so many of them. You know how with the main six you can kinda ship any of them together and it would be a cute ship to some degree? That's kinda what this is. So I decided for the sake of the story and for my own sanity to put romance on the back burner and have a bunch of semi-canon / non-canon romance routes, kinda like a dating sim. So when you think about it, everything's a little canon when you put your mind to it. Though there is technically one full canon ship, but I will save that for later. For now, let's move on to the second upper crust. Lottie is my personal adorable little baby bee, and she's the first friend and teammate Max makes at the school after she righteously and bravely defended him from her evil brother by chucking a volleyball in his face. She's a real sporty girl who, you may already guess, loves volleyball, but she also likes tennis because it's a good way to let out her pent-up aggression. She's full of energy and is a real yapper and tends to say things that actually, don't make much sense. And she's all about getting everyone involved in different activities and sees the good in others even if they mess up, sometimes to a pretty bad degree where it can kind of come off as if she's defending them. She does this to Bradley a lot. Fun fact, Lottie was the one that actually brought the original group together and is arguably the most torn up at the fact that it's now fallen apart. Her eagerness to make others happy often leads to her becoming a bit too dependent on their approval. So instead of addressing negativity or her own needs, she tends to brush them aside to keep up a more positive attitude at all times. And she goes to great lengths to be liked or included, sometimes even sacrificing her own values and well-being. So she often has a hard time addressing serious issues, often just wanting everything to stay the same no matter what. She struggles with change and tends to suppress her emotions, so similarly to Bradley, she can have occasional emotional outbursts. but she also tends to avoid food in stressful situations. She's just like me for real. Although she wishes to go back to the way things were before, she's afraid to actually confront the problems that actually caused the group's downfall in the first place. So because of that, she often describes herself as a coward and weak for not being able to confront them. She wants to, she just doesn't know how in a healthy manner. So because she doesn't know what to do, she just runs away. So a big part of her story comes with confronting these issues and learning to accept negativity as a part of life, along with not running away from her problems in fear of disassociating and hiding behind her happy, bubbly behavior. Up next, we have the infamous Theodore D. Bunny, the character that made me add the Looney Tunes to this universe simply because I felt like it. He's basically this universe's version of Wallace Wells. He's just as snarky and laid back. Despite that though, Theo has to be hands down the most complex character we have in this story, and we all have a very strong love-hate relationship with this man. He's emotionally distant, self-deprecating, and a sarcastic musician, who happens to also be the cheeky and flirtatious adopted child of Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, because who says I can't? He's pretty much known for his dramatic flair and charming nature. He often uses sarcasm and clever insults to hide his vulnerability. He can be cocky and mean-spirited at times, but he is very protective of his loved ones, and he will find ways to help, even if it's in some more unconventional and possibly illegal ways. Growing up wasn't really easy for him, so he's learned to express his emotions through his music, but never actually expressed them any other way. He also struggles with his more manipulative side. Whenever he's confronted with anything that can make him vulnerable, he tends to go in like a pretty low state. He'll start arguments just to be able to avoid it. He's not proud of doing it, but he just doesn't feel safe in any vulnerable manner. I feel I should also point out that this doesn't really have anything to do with Bugs and Daffy, but what happened in his life before Bugs and Daffy, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But overall, he definitely has a if you go lower, I go where the submarine went mentality. So while he seems very polished and charming, he can definitely strain his own relationships in several ways. But deep down, Theo has to be the most sensitive and emotional out of everybody in this group. All he wants is to feel safe and happy for once in his life, and he just doesn't think he'll be able to achieve that. So he just uses his humor and his cockiness to navigate life as much as he can. He thinks it's easier to just kind of cut off his emotions than be vulnerable. So he really has to learn to navigate that. Sir, you need therapy intensely, immediately. Get in the chair. Next up, I have my favorite little emo mouse, it's Matt. Fun fact, Matt isn't his real name, he changed it for personal reasons. He's a pretty quiet and private guy, and when you hear his story, you really can't blame him. He's an ex-child star and the son of the famous Mickey and Minnie Mouse. Mickey in this universe is a famous actor and director, and Minnie is a famous fashion designer. Matt hated being in the industry, he hated being famous, he hates that his parents try to make him embrace the life of fame, especially when it's left him with such major trust issues over the years. So he tends to keep to himself a lot, but he loves things like photography and filmmaking. Before the group fell apart, he was particularly really close with Bradley and Lottie. However, after the group fell apart, he quickly started to ice them out, along with everybody else. He also deals with some pretty intense anxiety, and fun fact, he has severe hearing loss. He's had it since he was a kid, and while he does verbally speak, he's very selective on when and who. So he uses sign language at almost all times, even when he is verbally speaking. He's pretty clever, blunt, curious. However, his bluntness and rationality can come off as cold, which comes with friction. He's really not afraid to say what's on his mind. But one plus is that he'd quite literally never be fake to literally anyone. He knows what that's like, and he'd never do that to anyone else, no matter how much he hates them. Now, even though he loves the group and still really loves them when they get back together, he still keeps a lot. A car is going on outside. What the hell? Jesus Christ. Anyway, as much as Matt really loves the group and still loves them when they get back together, he still keeps a lot of secrets from them. When he met the group initially, he had changed his name to Matt, He started dyeing his hair all the time to make sure he wasn't recognized in any way. So no one actually really knows who he is, and he never really wants to let that out in fear of that changing how they view him. And he often questions his own worth on whether he's even worth anything when he's not attached to being the son of the two most famous people in the world. And it doesn't help that he's constantly compared to them, especially at home. So he pushes himself to prove himself through other means, like his skating, or his photography, or his filmmaking. But he does tend to isolate himself more than anything. And despite wanting deeper connections, it keeps him from doing so. But he is fiercely loyal and will stick by people. And he is a big goofball when he's comfortable. Also, little funny thing, one day my best friend Robin sent me a TikTok of fighting someone with a mystery mousecatool, and we have then made it canon that Matt has a mystery mousecatool that he secretly uses when he needs to, that Mickey made him take to school with him. He uses it to secretly help people. It's just like a funny little gag. Next we have Hazel, the ultimate fashionista, and fun fact, was the first character I ever made for this AU. And when making her, I drew inspiration from characters like Twilight Sparkle, Diane Yuen, and Princess Carolyn. She's super gentle, compassionate, she's an absolute sweetie who embodies the classic kind of girl next door kind of vibe. But she's also playful, sassy, and very independent. She doesn't like people doing things for her. She's someone who takes a lot of pride in herself no matter what. So she's very confident, she struts with style. She's originally from New Orleans, so she kind of has a bit of a southern accent to her. Like, kind of a mix of both Charlotte and Tiana's voices, if I had to, imagine it. She refuses to let anyone tell her what she can do in her life, and she's not afraid to call out any wrongdoing. She's someone that grew up having everyone do everything for her because she grew up rather sickly. So people often treated her like a China doll that could never do anything. And despite her talent and skill, she was almost always seen as the sick girl. And it doesn't help that she mostly grew up with caretakers and nurses that didn't really treat her like a human either. Her parents love her dearly, but because they had to work so hard to make sure she had good health care, she never really saw them a lot. But Hazel never backed down because of this. In fact, it made her want to be more and more independent. She's very tenacious and ambitious, especially when it comes to fashion and cosmetics, since really the only thing she could do when in the hospital was draw. However, she tends to push herself way too hard, even at the detriment of her health, both mentally and physically. So she often tends to burn herself out. Setting boundaries is also a big issue for Hazel. She has a bit of a savior complex, often wanting to take out other people's problems and try to fix people, almost as if to try to compensate for how much people had to quote-unquote try to fix her. So with her workaholic tendencies and overly high standards, she often finds herself frustrated and disappointed. She has a very hard time taking her own advice or the advice of others, or even remotely asking for help even when it's obvious she needs it. She also has a bit of a control issue and doesn't really like when someone else takes charge. She's a big sweetheart and she doesn't intend to hurt people, but she can go overboard with her more toxic tendencies. You can probably see that that's kind of a running thing in this story. So her issues can make her overly critical, impatient, and frankly emotionally distant, even though she genuinely means well. She never really learned to cut herself some slack, and it's like she's constantly expected that her sickness, her struggles, the hospitals, and the isolation would all kind of pay off or mean something, and she's just desperate for it to finally get to that point. But damn, bitch, you need to give yourself some grace, because Jesus. Now let's talk about Miss Mocha, also known as Beret Girl, even though I honestly thought her real name was Mocha because Bradley's bad at giving insults. In the original movie, she doesn't really have that much of a character outside of being the hot goth girl, but now she does have one, so yay. She's the character that's in the only canonical relationship in this story, but not with PJ, but with my sister's OC Avery, who I will get into a little bit later. Please, listen, it's the only way I could keep her in this AU. It's the only thing I need, please. Anyway, Mocha is a pretty mysterious and confident person. She has a way of captivating everybody around her with her enigmatic aura. She's always speaking in riddles or poems, adding some more intrigue to her personality, or everyone just seeing her as weird. She has a kind of regal air about her, but she's someone who knows exactly who she is and exactly what she wants. She's someone who rarely ever second guesses anything she's doing, even if she can be a bit catty at points. Her witty and sarcastic comments are always on point, always ending with a good old snap in your face. And it's pretty hard to stay mad at her. She's the type of friend that will literally drop everything she's doing to come to your house with snacks if you even tell her you're slightly sad. She will also talk shit about your ex for you. She grew up with divorced parents, so she had to learn to be resourceful and independent fairly young, and she's a pro at navigating social dynamics. And she is very good at reading people and judging their character. However, she does tend to hold grudges, especially towards Bradley. So to avoid situations like these, she tends to keep a lot of her relationships superficial and avoids getting too close to anyone for her own safety. However, when she comes to a chosen few, this being the Goof Troop, she's fiercely loyal. Her loyalty is unwavering. She will burn down a building for them. She loves some excitement in her life and can be a tiny bit possessive. She strives to be a writer and a famous poet, even maybe writing scripts for movies one day, which is why she gets along so well with Matt. Oh, and also she's a lesbian because my sister said so. In fact, now that I think about it, I think she fits the Cleo denial role more than Bradley does. I think Bradley's more of a Toralei. I don't know where all these Monster High comparisons are coming from. I think it's because I'm really excited to get the Pride topic. Now, these next characters actually aren't mine, but belong to my best friend Robin, who I also somehow roped into this AU. And I thought it would be fun to let her take the reins for this next section. Take it away, Robin.
Hi, my name is Outlaw, or you can call me Mage, whichever one works out for you. I am one of the multiple people that Anarchii decided to grab by the back of the collar and throw into the Goof Troop pile pit and said, hey, get over here and suffer. So you can thank them for what's about to happen. I am the proud creator of these two amazing little rabbits who don't really know what's going on and got picked up the same way I did by the Goof Troop. Ian and Jean. These two get together and also hate each other at the exact same time, considering the fact that they are both inseparable and separable all at once. They hate each other but also love each other like all siblings do, and that totally doesn't stem from their household. What are you talking about? I make normal OCs with normal, healthy parental figures. I'm not lying, I swear. We can start with Mazikeen. Mazikeen is this 19-year-old rabbit who is usually calm and responsible and delves herself into her studies quite a bit because she is usually very determined. She's always on a schedule. She is always ready to go. If something goes wrong, she is willing to help in any way, shape, or form, while also being a little bit spiteful, which is why she kind of gets along with Theo in a way. Big mystery murder lover. Oh my goodness, it is something that she will immediately jump in. She loves solving puzzles and figuring things out, and if she can't figure it out, so help me, you will be sat down and you will help her figure it out herself, or else you will be thrown into the pile of gutters. I promise you, it does not sound as bad as it looks. What am I saying? Yes, it does. She adores spending time with her friends, even though she originally wasn't a part of it until she was plucked up like a flower by Hazel, who was one of the first people that she actually became friends with before her brother was introduced. Speaking of her brother, let's talk about Jean. Is this non-binary history enthusiast who is also 19 years old. Yes, they are twins, obviously. What did you think was going to happen? They're both going to be 19. He loves to share odd historical facts, no matter if you care to listen or not. In fact, he will go out of his way to just sit next to you, sit in total silence, and then suddenly spew something about the Renaissance. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter where you are. Shoot, you could be on a date, and he will see you, and he will be like, hey, let me tell you what happened during 1963. That's just how it's gonna go. I apologize. He's learning. I swear he is. He doesn't really enjoy hanging out with other people for the most part. At least not people he knows, like, a little bit. It's something he has been trying to work on, especially since he was introduced to his sister's friend group. They are a trustworthy, brutally honest, and extremely serious about keeping their word. They are prideful of it. They don't care what you need. They don't care what you need to do. Shoot, you could literally be dragging a body down the River Creek and they'll be like, all right, well, I did say I'll help you. I'm not condoning your actions, but I will help. They also examine situations in the most logical way possible, especially since they do not believe that their emotions should ever play a factor in their decisions in any way, shape, or form, especially when it comes to situations that they have no idea about. So if you come to them with a situation and you're feeling extremely emotional about it, they won't really give you advice to comfort you. They will give you advice based on, wow, you sound like you're being stupid. Why don't you do this, this, and this? Not like they're trying to be mean, but more like they're trying to figure out why would you just logically deal with that situation, which sadly tends to cause issues, especially arguments, when they usually don't mean to do stuff like that, but they're still trying to learn. Does this cause issues? Obviously, especially in their personal life when they want to help someone, but the person isn't looking for a solution. They're looking for a little bit of sympathy. Gina's not that person. They are obviously trying and are trying to get used to that, but it is a little difficult. Another thing about Gene is that he is not particularly great at picking up people's intentions, which is exactly why he has his sister, Mazikeen, to help them with that, especially since Mazikeen is a lot more confrontational than he is. Despite their differences in the way that their worlds collide often and how they butt heads and how they fight all the time if it suits them, they still genuinely care for each other and they extremely care for the group in every way, shape, or form, and they wouldn't have it any other way.
Thank you, Robin, for your contribution. If you want to see more of Outlaw's work and characters, you can find it on her Instagram called Or Just Don't. Next up, we have my sister's OC, who I'm very, very happy with. Her name is Slasher Gasher, with her OC named Avery, who I mentioned a little bit earlier in this video. Avery, formerly known as Ava, is a hot-headed yet selfish meerkat who prioritizes others over herself. She's also an extreme airhead who tends to have her head in the clouds. She was raised by pretty neglectful, overly strict parents on a farm who often fixated over her oldest brother Abraham. So because of that, she's the one who mostly took on farm work and regular work and taking care of her youngest brother Apollo. Her scars are actually from several altercations specifically regarding her brothers, but I'm gonna keep that a secret for now. But since that incident, Apollo ended up moving in with their aunt while Avery went to college. Avery, as the oldest in the group troop, actually went to college before everyone else. However, she struggled financially and had a lot of dissatisfaction with her classes. And this led to her dropping out early to be able to pay for her debts and along with rekindle her love of writing. She can be a bit of a flake, but she is very protective over this group, and she loves them very dearly, especially her girlfriend Mocha. But frankly, she does have a short temper, frankly worse than Bradley's. But she's also a fan of westerns and cowboys and often escapes into books and deep conversations with her girlfriend. She's my baby. I love her. I love her so much. I loved how I drew her in this picture too. Fun fact, I was the one that convinced Slasher to give her the cowboy hat. Now, initially this was going to be the end of this video, but I decided to include one more surprise character. He's technically not a part of the Goof Troop and is a rather side character in this story, but he is a major big brother to the group and does have a spin-off story in this universe of his own that I'm planning on making a video on, so it feels wrong to not at least mention him. And that is my lovely heartthrob, Carrie. He's the certified dilf that all my friends lust after like a bunch of charlatans. He's a 23-year-old single dad to his little angel Harper, and he has his own connections to everyone in the group as he used to tutor them back when they were in high school, minus Max, of course. And he was originally also their teacher's aide. Now he leads a cafe close to the school so he can help volunteer there. He's kind, he's wise, he's a bit flirty, and very helpful, but keeps a lot of secrets. No one really knows much about him, despite knowing him for so long. He tends to keep to himself most of the time. But you will hear about his daughter from no tomorrow. And I just can't wait to make his video. I love this guy. But that's all I wanted to cover. That's all of my little goobers. You are now officially a true connoisseur of Goof Troop lore. Here, have a gold star for making it through. You know what? Comment a gold star if you made it to this point. You are a goddamn trooper. I know this comes off a bit cringe, but I'm so happy that I made this video because honestly, I'm worried my channel has been becoming too samey and, you know, empty. Which sucks because I kind of really wanted to use this channel to express myself, and I think this is a great first step. Before you guys go though, I want to let you guys know that I have Kara now, whichever one it is. I'm really loving the platform so far, and I'm really hoping it's long lasting, and you can find a lot of my art on there because I'm planning on being a lot more active. It's the perfect social media for me. However, if you don't want to download Kara, that's cool, but I do still have my community tab if you do want to see my work and my little updates of what I'm doing. Thank you guys so much for listening to me yap once again, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!